Hello and welcome to World of Tanks with me, Marimo. Today we're taking a look at my first ever ace tanker in the T-44. At this point I'd almost finished my grind on the T-44. I had probably 9 or 10 games left on it, and I was starting to get a little bit frustrated with it, and you can kind of tell that by the way I play. I've kind of gotten used to it and the way it feels. So the very first thing that I do is I go over to the A12 line. And I do that because the T-44 has got no gun depression, or it may as well have no gun depression. It's probably got 3 or 4 degrees of gun depression. It's really quite poor. So that means that any position going up the hill is pointless. The turret armour is okay, but not brilliant, which kind of rules out everything along the D line. You can use buildings to cover up your lower glaciers. And finally, the 9 and 3 lines both have heavy tank shootout areas, but this tank's overall armour is terrible, so those were ruled out as well, which purely left the 1 and 2 lines. And the 1 and 2 lines are particularly good for light and medium tanks because they give you a line in which you can get behind enemy SPGs, and they give you a line which you can flank enemy. Now this first target is the weirdest comet driver I have ever seen in my life. He rushes to this position, and then he sits there. You can note that he's not trying to angle his arm. He's not trying to reverse and get away from me, even though I'm just sat bouncing his shots. He just sits there, quite happily firing at me and doing nothing. And frankly, that's the number one thing you should never do. Sit still and let another tank, which is higher tier, with more alpha damage, higher rate of fire, kill you. For obvious reasons, you should never do that. So congratulations to that Comet for being a complete and utter moron. The next thing we do is, well, I'm very cautious at this point because by now the heavy tanks have had time to mobilise and get into a position where they could theoretically have gone down the 3 line. Now I'm very lucky, none of them actually went down the 3 line. You can see the T-150 at, God, I can't remember the word for it, but at G, I think it's Goat 3. That's the only heavy tanks that have gone down. This T-25 looking the other way, so I can flank. I also locked on because I was never going to miss at that range anyway, and I get unlucky, don't quite kill him there. And someone steals the kill when he's in 1 hit point, which is frustrating, but you know, we did get a free kill on a Comet. Now, I take a quick shot at that T-34, but I didn't really have much of a target, and I kind of knew that it was going to miss anyway. That's why I came out of sniper mode, because I was like, the only way this is going to hit is if RNG is completely on my side. Now, the AMX 5100 is engaging the T-34. I'm not that interested because the T-150 could have gotten behind us and caused us serious problems. So instead, I get behind him and start flanking him and do basically what he does. The one thing I should note is I shouldn't have auto-aimed. It's one of the things I'm trying to get myself to stop doing. It's a gradual thing. You can see there that I didn't auto-aim, but I did. Now you'll see that what I constantly keep doing is I drive at them and then at the last minute turn away, almost as if I'm playing a game of chicken. And the reason I do that is because it gives them as little time as possible to guess the flank that I want to take, meaning that I'm more likely to get it. You can see that I'm going backwards and forwards. I'm trying to outmaneuver the T-34's turret. I managed to do it. You'll also notice that I was very close to him. The reason for that is the best armour is on my turret. And the closer I am to him, the more angle he has to create by aiming his gun down at my hull, meaning that the effective armour of the hull would be too light to penetrate, and hitting me in the turret would be more logical. Now, at this point, 12-3, we've already won, so you can see that I managed on balls to the walls. I'm just taking any damage regardless, because I know I can get a few extra hits, get a little bit extra damage. And it can be a stupid thing to do, but you know, we're winning 14-5, it just doesn't matter anymore. We've won this game. The AT-15 would have to be the best player in the world in order to win now. So, hopefully the T-44's weaknesses were kind of shown a bit there, you probably noticed how all the penetrating hits I took were from the side and from the rear, how the T-150 was bouncing off my turret, showed you how, even though the turret armour is especially good, it can bounce the lower tiers. And the fact that I bounced off a few of these tanks, you'll see me bounce off the AT-15's weak spot in a minute. Here, bounces off his weak spot, and that just goes to show you how poor the penetration is on the T-44. But of course, eventually you're always going to get through the weak spot. So, I hope you enjoyed that replay. That was a ace tanker in my T-44, the first ace tanker I had in the little guy. I did approximately 3,600 damage in a city map, which is something which the T-44 doesn't especially excel at, yet it still managed to do acceptably well. So I hope that went some way into teaching you how the T-44 works, and I also hope that you enjoyed it and can perhaps learn of the mistakes that I made and learn from a few of the techniques that I did use. So please remember to give me a like, please subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.